Well, my friends, this is chapter 12. We are right in the middle of the textbook, and that means it is all downhill from here. And to celebrate the halfway point, we are going to talk about technology and what it means for language learning and teaching. One of the things to be careful about when talking about technology is that because everything is changing so quickly, by the time you watch this video, any applications or gadgets I talk about will probably be too old. So, rather than telling you all about the good sites or applications I know, I'm just going to focus on the principles of teaching with technology. Let's get into it. Now, some people get the idea that if we use technology, we are cool teachers and it will be effective. Of course, this is not the case. Like anything you do in the classroom, you need to be thinking about whether your students need to be doing it, and is it going to be beneficial for their learning? I hope that by the end of this chapter, you'll be aware of a few different ways to use technology in the classroom and a few dangers that you might face when using that technology. We have a few more topics this week than we have had for the past couple of chapters, but I think it isn't anything we can't handle. I warn you though, just like motivation, once I start talking about technology, I might not be able to stop. We'll start with a general discussion as always. Because we will be talking about technology, including using smartphones, I would like you to think about whether it's a good idea to have students use their phones in class. Now, I do allow students to use their phones in my classes under my instructions, but this does not mean you have to agree. Perhaps your opinion depends on the age of the students, which is okay, of course. I'd like you to get your ideas together, then during class, share your opinion with your group members. Like you'll find in many areas of education, there are a lot of acronyms when talking about technology. The two main ones you need to remember are CALL, Computer Assisted Language Learning, and MAL, Mobile Assisted Language Learning. Within CALL, you'll often hear references to Web 2.0. This basically refers to the idea that users are able to create and edit material. With Web 1.0, you could only look at material on the web. But with Web 2.0, you can use blogs, social networking systems, and other ways to create and share material. The video you are watching now is only able to exist because of Web 2.0, and my hard work, of course. Web 2.0 applications have brought a mountain of possibilities to the language classroom. These possibilities are only limited by your imagination. MAL gives more mobility to students and teachers. You no longer have to carry your computer around with you everywhere. Your smartphone is strong enough. One of the problems with MAL, though, and I'll probably get to this again later, is that there is no real chance to escape. The border between private life and the classroom becomes very fuzzy. Some students don't like this, as they want to make a clear distinction between school life and private life. I guess the same could be said for teachers. Sometimes you've just got to be strong and get offline for a while and enjoy life. In this day and age, though, it's easier said than done. So as I just mentioned, while the use of technology in the classroom brings many opportunities, there are also many things to be wary of. First, let's look at some advantages. There is no doubt that technology brings more chances to interact with others. Not just with anyone, but with people who have common interests. Through these interactions, you can create and strengthen friendships with those you connect with online. There are also opportunities for students to create their own materials and share with a wider audience, but with the capability of limiting it to just the students in the class itself if preferred. Also, there are many chances to learn about foreign cultures while online. If you and your students are lucky enough to have access to a virtual reality setup, You can even have students step right into another world, all while not even leaving the classroom. Now, while all of this sounds fabulous, we need to remember that it is not all rainbows and lollipops. I had an opportunity to hear the well-respected researcher Penny speak a couple of years ago, and her warning for those using technology in the classroom was, at first, students will appear to be motivated by the new toys, but after a while, that enthusiasm may decline. It is important to keep students motivated and not introduce everything at once. Another researcher in Cole and Moll, Glenn Stockwell, tells us that sometimes it's just better to use paper. Don't feel you have to use technology just because it's cool. Think carefully about whether it will be beneficial for you and the students. Then consider the best way to approach the lesson. Stockwell also mentions, like I said in the previous slide, that sometimes students see technology as an invasion of their privacy. There are many issues related to technology that you need to consider, so think carefully about it before you dive right on in. We are pushing for time, but let's still have a quick discussion. I'd like you to think about the ways you use the internet in your everyday life. Can you think of some ways you could incorporate those habits so they will be beneficial for learning English? Our textbook gives us 5 basic hints for using Cole and Moll. First, as I mentioned before, we need to make sure the distinction between study and play is clear. Students need to be aware that their phones can be very useful for educational purposes. Second, we need to be promoting the idea that the students can take charge of their learning through the use of ICT. They can even do projects with people they've never even met. As teachers, we need to provide help to students when they need it. Our textbook uses the word scaffolding, which basically means assisting students and helping them until they no longer need it. Fourth, we want to make sure the slides we create are not full of words, but clear and easy to see. I sure hope my slides are clear and easy to see. And finally, we, the teachers, need to be up to date with all the latest information. Everything changes so quickly when you start using technology in the classroom, so make sure you are constantly aware of what is going on in the tech world. Okay, so we are very quickly going to have a look at teaching language skills and how using technology could be beneficial. First, with reading and writing, you can use email, wikis, and blogs to help students with their reading and writing. A lot of books and magazines are now available in electronic versions, which can be read on Kindles and other tablets. Just be careful of these, because some people still prefer the feeling of paper when reading. Our textbook mentions social networking systems, but for the 1,000,000th time, we need to be careful about whether we are invading our students' private lives. Even though it is not written in our textbook, I have used Google Docs for writing classes in the past. I can give Google Docs a big thumbs up for the advantages this application brings to class. Let's have a look at speaking and listening. Well, what you are doing right now is hopefully a perfect example of how using technology can improve listening skills. I have captions available if you need them, and they can be removed to test your listening later. Podcasts, creating videos, video conferencing, using videos to check your own speaking skills. With a little imagination and creativity, the possibilities to improve your and your students' listening and speaking skills are endless. All it takes is a little research. And finally, there is grammar and vocabulary. Again, the possibilities are just limited to your imagination. There is a huge number of websites dedicated to improving grammar and vocabulary. The biggest question we need to be asking ourselves when it comes to using technology for vocab and grammar is that question about its advantage over paper. Are you using the technology because it will be really beneficial for students? Or are you just using the technology so you'll be the cool teacher, or you'll think you'll be the cool teacher? Okay, last discussion. We've talked about ways of using technology for improving speaking, listening, reading, writing, grammar, and vocabulary. Well, how about you? How do you use technology to improve your language proficiency? If you don't use technology, and you do because you are watching this video, but if you think you don't use technology, do a little research and come up with at least 3 applications or websites you find beneficial for improving your English ability. So that's all we have time for today. I hope you'll be a little more prepared than usual for our in-class discussions. I really think we can improve those a couple of gears. See you soon.